Just getting off that stingy residue, which I will speed up because it might take me a while to do this. It actually took me a lot longer than I expected, so we're going to go to the next step here, and then we'll get that CPU heatsink and fan back on. We're going to test the connections we made using our voltmeter. We're going to set it for continuity, touch it to certain points on the circuit that we just created there, and see if, just make sure there's no short circuit. I'm just touching a ground point, and then those two wires that we put on the motherboard, they're both on the positive side. They're positive points on the motherboard. So if we touch a ground point to one of those points of that red wire we just installed, and you hear a beep when you're testing for continuity, then you know, because it should not be touching any ground points, those wires we installed. There should be no contact with ground points. Just take our paintbrush and clean up as much of the bottom case as you can since you got it open. We're going to take the motherboard now, we're going to place it back into its spot, and we're going to see if it fits now that we added those wires. Those wires might be causing a problem where it won't fit now, so I'm just going to try to size it up and make sure that it fits. And I'm just looking to see if when I put the motherboard back, is it gonna create any short circuit with any of the points of the bottom case? Is our red wire going to be touching any points of that case that we don't want it to touch? Because remember, those wires weren't there before, so it's like an extra protrusion. You want to make sure that it fits okay and there's no connections made that you don't want to be made between the case and the wires that we installed. And I think we're going to be okay. Throw the motherboard in there. Again, if it doesn't sit flush, find out why. And in this case, it's not sitting flush because that wire was under there, which is the speaker wire. Now I'm going to speed up the video here. Again, this computer gets put together the same way it came apart. Use the proper screws and the proper holes there. Get it all back together. Clean it up little bits and pieces where you can. Put the wireless card in there. We're going to put that screen back on. Screw the screen down, and then we're going to feed that wireless antenna through. And put it back in the little slot it goes in. Same thing with the LCD cable. Okay, that's in pretty solid. Attach the wireless antenna. Hard drive goes in there. And I'm going to slow the footage down as I install the heatsink on the CPU. Again, get the stickiness off of that CPU. I'm using Scotch-Brite, but just use it very, very gently if you're using Scotch-Brite. Clean it off with the paintbrush, make sure there's a good connection. I'm going to pull out the thermal grease here. I use Arctic Silver, but it's actually the ceramic version. So it's not quite silver, but the company's Arctic Silver. And I put a little dab on there. And I like to take a piece of Scotch tape, put it on my fingers long ways, and use it as a little steamroller to level out all the thermal grease, and it's the way you keep your fingers clean. I just don't trust when I just put a little glob of thermal grease on there, it's going to distribute itself evenly, so I like to distribute it a little bit. And now take your nice new clean heat sink, which we hope is clean enough. Sometimes the best way to get that stickiness off is with your fingers. and that's the best we're going to get. So remember to attach the CPU fan. It's vitally urgent. Your computer will overheat. You don't want to cause damage to that processor. And it's a little hairy in there. That's why it might have been a good idea to do this before we put everything back together, but I think we'll be alright. There it goes. And that slides right in there. The fan does. And the heatsink sits right on top of the processor. Make sure it's all lined up. And then I like to screw these back in a crisscross fashion like you're putting on a tire. Distribute the pressure evenly on the processor. And these plates, this is the last plate I got to put on. This covers the fan and the heatsink. They get dusty. They get dirty. Clean them up since you have them out. Like I said, always try to give your laptop back to the customer in a better condition, in a cleaner condition than when you got it. Cleaner is the key word. Even brush off the bottom of that keyboard. Get it all nice and clean. You don't want little particles and residue flitting around on the motherboard, so